Roadie on the Horn podcast. Today is Monday, November 9th at time of recording. We just wrapped up another weekend of football action. That is awesome. We're going to get into that. Without further ado, I am going to introduce my awesome co-host today. I am joined by my great friend, Donnie. Donnie, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm just great, living the dream. Football, another great weekend. The Giants actually won a football game, which is shocking. Um, Daniel Jones is now, 4-0 against Washington and 1-16 against everybody else. So that's really good. That's a encouraging sign. But yeah, doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's for some reason it's like 60 and 70 degrees every day
It's
in
snowing
November.
here,
I don't
so
understand.
I
Okay,
don't know what you're
so
on.
so so Iowa has nice weather and Colorado it's back to snow. That's good to know right there.
Yes, it's really a great time. I went outside. I was wearing shorts before, and it said it was 31 degrees when I checked, and there was snow on the ground. So really, just not what we're looking for. I'm not ready for it.
It's coming. We kind of know it's inevitable, but it's football weather. I think that's kind of a good sign. And Donnie, you mentioned the Giants getting a win, but your other team, the Miami Hurricanes, they had a wild game over the weekend against NC State. What'd you see in that game?
To be expected. If the offense is good, the defense is bad. If the defense is good, the offense is bad. It really just doesn't make sense. Miami doesn't. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there, but the Hurricane had what may have been the best game of his Miami career thus far. Probably, would say that's the case. He was throwing dimes left and right. The defense did nothing really. They may have had two stops all game. But if you score more than your opponent, you win the game. You can't be that mad, can you?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Yeah, Derek King, unbelievable performance. Definitely his best game, as you were saying. He had over 100 yards on the ground, 430 through the air, 5 touchdowns. So definitely a great game for Derek King. That was a nice comeback for Miami as well. They were down for a lot of that game, but yeah, they've been good. Only loss this year is to Clemson. So I think things are looking good for Miami. They should be able to get back into the top 10 this week.
Yeah, the best part about this is they play Virginia Tech this week, and Virginia Tech's actually favored after losing to Liberty. So really not. I don't know if I understand the lines necessarily. It is in Virginia. But yeah, Miami as the number 9 seed is currently a 2.5 point underdog against the Virginia Tech team that is 4-3 that's coming off a loss to Liberty. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I don't really understand that spread. That game against Liberty that you just referenced, that was an insane game. Virginia Tech, at the end of that game, Liberty was kicking a field goal for a chance to win. Virginia Tech blocks the kick, returns it for a touchdown, but they called a timeout before the kick to ice the kicker. They kick it again. Liberty kicks it, makes the kick, and Liberty knocks off Virginia Tech. So probably not a great timeout in hindsight for Virginia Tech, but it happens. But yeah, I don't really understand why they're favored in that game either. But that was interesting for some college notes. Also had number 1 against number 4 over the weekend. That was a crazy game, Clemson and Notre Dame. We saw no Trevor Lawrence, but Clemson's backup quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, is I think. I watched the full game, and I still don't even know for sure if that's how you say his name. But, of course, Clemson, they lose Trevor Lawrence. They lose the best quarterback in the country, and they just throw out their backup, who already is probably like a top 5 quarterback in all of college football.
Oh, he had like 450 yards, a couple touchdowns. Props to him. Obviously they lost, not his fault. You can't really blame him necessarily. I don't know, man. I don't buy Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they'll lose to somebody at some point. It'll be bad, and everybody will be back to, oh, Notre Dame's back. So that's what we're expecting here.
Yeah, if Notre Dame even plays another game, they storm the field after beating Clemson. Like, you're telling me that no Notre Dame player is going to test positive from COVID after being around an entire student body on the field? I'm a little skeptical on that one. That was interesting to say, but yeah, it was definitely a big win for Notre Dame, I guess. But yeah, regular season, like you're saying, wake me up for the college football playoff. That's usually where Notre Dame kind of gets destroyed. But that was a really good game. I guess props to Notre Dame for finally getting out on the winning side. We saw one other top 10 matchup over the weekend in college football. That was Florida and Georgia. That's always an interesting game in the SEC East. Seems like every year that's what it comes down to for the team trying to get to Atlanta. And Florida actually came up on top of this one. Florida looked really good. They've got a couple of really nice playmakers on offense. Kadarius Toney, a wide receiver, and Kyle Pitts, their tight end, did really, really well against Georgia's defense, who has looked really good. They kind of got torched by Bama, but that happens. And then Florida was able to get on top of Georgia in that game. So a couple of big-time matchups over the weekend in college football for us.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed by Florida. Usually you expect Florida to lose these games, but it looked like Trask went out there and he was gunning the ball around to basically everybody. He didn't have many mistakes. I think he had one pick. But in the long run, they ended up winning by 16, I think. So, hey, if you beat Georgia, who is, I'd say I don't know, maybe the class of that division at least. You have to be happy.
Yeah, Georgia had won a number of games in a row against Florida in that head-to-head matchup. They had gone to that championship game in Atlanta the last few years. So definitely a big one for Florida. As you mentioned, Kyle Trask has looked really good, really all throughout this year. I mentioned some of the good playmakers he has, but definitely some nice development for Kyle Trask in his second year as the Gators quarterback. So that was interesting. We also had Pac-12 come back over the weekend. USC clutched out a win right at the end of their game. So that was nice. It was a pretty solid weekend of college football action as well as NFL action. Obviously, we can now shift over to some of that. We saw a pretty wild game between the Miami Dolphins and Arizona Cardinals, actually. That was one of the games that we definitely wanted to highlight. We saw Tua and Kyler, a rematch of the Orange Bowl a few years ago, and we saw Oklahoma and Alabama play each other. So another really good game. Kyler Murray had an unbelievable game. He had over 100 yards on the ground. He had like 5 total touchdowns, but Miami still came out on top. So Tua is actually 2-0 as a starter in his young career.
Yeah, Tua looks legit. I don't know. I was surprised at how much he was willing to run, and they had a couple run plays that were in designed for him, which seems a little dangerous considering he's a very injury-prone quarterback. But I don't know. I think if anything, if you're a Dolphins fan, you are just so fired up to see what this season has become. I think Arizona is a top 4 team in the NFC, top 5 team in the NFC. And so for Miami, who had an abysmal last year, to come out there with, I don't know, what seemed like more of a gutted roster and end up, being as good as they've been so far, they're actually going to end up competing for the division probably. That's just surprising enough to me.
Yeah, I agree with you that Dolphins definitely were not a team that was looked too favorably upon last year. They were able to win a few games towards the end of the year. I think Brian Flores has done a nice job so far. But yeah, as you said, I mean, Tua, it's not like he's got a ton of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Myles Gaskin just went on IR, even though he had a nice start to the year. So now it's mostly Jordan Howard, and then he's throwing the ball to Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. So they're figuring it out, though. So, I mean, credit to the Dolphins. That was a big win, as you said, on the road at Arizona, one of the top teams in the NFC. So that was definitely a good game. Another game in the late window that really came down to the wire was that Raiders-Chargers game. That was really wild. We saw yet again another game where the Chargers just have their hearts absolutely just gutted from them. They think they score a touchdown with throwing to their third-string tight end, Parnum, with the game on the line, and then it turns out he didn't catch it. So the Raiders sneak out with a win in that one. But yeah, we saw a few wild games over there in the NFL this weekend.
Yeah, you have to feel bad for the Chargers. I think it's their 6th game that they've lost by 7 points or less this year, which has been a trend that has happened the last couple of years. So, I mean, nothing surprising there. But, yeah, you really have to feel Herbert's got, like, the worst record of all time for a starting quarterback who's played great. Like, he's actually been so fantastic. And the record just really doesn't show. It's got to be very depressing being a Chargers fan and knowing all your games go down to the wire and you never win any of them.
Yeah, it seems like it's the same story every single Sunday for the Chargers, and it's just never ending. That's just always how it goes. But yeah, as you said, I mean, Herbert's really been balling out, getting the ball to Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. So he's been balling, but it hasn't really shown in the win column, as you said, for the Chargers. You mentioned the Giants game earlier, Donnie. That was a win for them against the Washington football team. But any other games from the weekend that you wanna mention here before we get into some of our listener questions?
The only thing I have to say is somehow Pittsburgh snuck one out against Dallas when they looked just absolutely awful. That's like the worst game they're going to play this year, no doubt. And they are still undefeated somehow. I'm not sure how they managed that one. Against a Dallas team that probably shouldn't have stuck around. I mean, it's like, as much as I like to say it, Garrett Gilbert probably shouldn't be starting games in the NFL. I don't know, man. It could be me. I don't know.
Yeah, the Cowboys quarterback situation, that is going to be one of the funny storylines to follow really the rest of this year. It was Ben DiNucci last week against the Eagles. Then they had enough of that. We thought it was going to be Cooper Rush. Then it turns out it's Garrett Gilbert. So, yeah, I mean, they have so many playmakers still on offense, though. It's like, man, just find a way to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and you can figure something out. They were close in that game against Pittsburgh, but eventually the Steelers do come out on top. Move to 8-0. How about that for the Steelers halfway through the year, still undefeated for them?
Yeah, I don't think I was really predicting the Steelers being the last undefeated team, nor them going 8-0, which is the best start in their franchise history, I believe. So props to them. They've had some good teams, and I think, hey, maybe they are, I don't know, asserting themselves as a favorite out in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to think so, especially coming off a week where they just won at Baltimore, another one of the top teams that's in their division in the AFC North. So Pittsburgh's looked really good. They have not played. They played some good caliber teams, as I was just saying there. So They're definitely putting themselves in a spot to secure that 1 seed in the AFC, which obviously could help for home field advantage. But then again, maybe we're having a bubble. I mean, who knows? Who knows if really that is actually going to have any impact on any of this? If no matter how the seeding kind of plays out for this.
Yeah, doubtful. One more game to talk about. Bill Seahawks. I know you probably very much enjoyed this game. Obviously, not a lot of defense was played. The Seahawks gave up the most points in Pete Carroll's history with the team, which is shocking. Um, and there's somebody was saying Josh Allen was like one of the most perfect games he's ever had, professionally, collegiate, high school, any of that. So I mean that's surprising, especially because you consider I think everybody considers the Seahawks as a decent defensive team.
Yeah, the Seahawks defensive struggles have been really weird because I feel like every time I watch the Seahawks, I'm just like, wow, Russell Wilson, their offense, they can figure it out. It doesn't even matter what kind of defense they have. They got Jamal Adams on defense, they'll be fine. But their defensive struggles have definitely been very significant. As you said, Josh Allen had a great game. Stephon Diggs, over 100 yards as well for Buffalo. So, I mean, yeah, the Bills putting up 44 on the Seahawks defense. They're going to need to figure that one out if they want to be competing in the NFC. But really, still, when it comes down to it, I still think the Seahawks are one of the top teams in the NFC. I think Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, that they prevent them just so many weapons for Russell Wilson to make stuff happen. And they just came up a little short. Still scored 34 points in this game at Buffalo, a team that has a good defense. But as you said, the defensive struggles for Seattle, that's going to be kind of their Achilles heel that holds them back.
Yeah, they've played 8 games and they've given up 23 or more points in all 8 of those games, which is I don't know. I'd say there's probably not another team that's done as bad as that. So I don't know. That's something that's really surprising with the Seahawks, especially because they did add players. It's like Jamal Adams. That's a brand new addition that has not gone so well apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting situation. I think they would like a little bit more production out of him, at least when it comes to turnovers. Like, even if your defense gives up 1 million yards, if you're able to force turnovers, that can kind of offset that. But hasn't been something that Seattle's experienced so far. Halfway through the year, we'll see if that's something they're able to get better. Obviously, Seattle's had a good defense in the past, so we could see Pete Carroll kind of turn it around. But has not been the case so far. That was a nice win for Buffalo. I think they're probably the team I like most in the AFC East so far this year. That seems to kind of be their division as we've kind of seen that transition where the Patriots are struggling, the Jets are a disaster, and Miami still, well, they're on the come up, as we mentioned, with that nice win against Arizona. They're not quite to the level of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, transition year for Miami, and I think we all knew that. I think they've won 4 straight, so you can't really complain about that. But yeah, Buffalo, Josh Allen, man, it's surprising how good he's been. I think everybody's pretty much wowed to see him. Just hasn't really missed a step. He's had some bad games here and there, but I think for the most part, he's been very, very efficient.
Yeah, no question. That was a really good game for Allen on Sunday, so definitely a good shout out for you on that. But we can now shift over. We got a ton of listener questions that's going to take up the bulk of this podcast, as we have lately. So shout out to everybody who's been asking us questions lately. We love everybody's thoughts on this. But this first one comes from our friend Luke at L_Kraus_, and he says, how far do you see the Indianapolis Colts going this year? And give some thoughts on their floor and ceiling. So the Colts this Sunday came up short to the Baltimore Ravens at home, sit at 5-3 on the year overall. Colts are kind of in an interesting spot. I don't think they're necessarily a team that is going to win their division. I think that's probably going to be the Titans. When you look at that division, Jacksonville and Houston are kind of disaster fires. They had a game this Sunday as well. But when it comes to the Colts, I think they're more eyeing a wild card position. And then even then, I kind of think that the Colts are among the lower end teams in the AFC when it comes to wild card. AFC is not crazy deep, so I could definitely see the Colts making the playoffs, maybe sneaking out a win in the wild card round, but I really don't see them making it much further than the divisional round of the playoffs. And I think when it comes to the floor, I could see the Colts maybe struggling a little bit and bouncing out of the playoffs entirely. So I'm not entirely high on the Colts. I wasn't crazy about their decision to go after Phillip Rivers in the offseason. I think going after a younger quarterback and kind of turning that page towards a younger team, which kind of the rest of the roster is. I think they have done a nice job drafting, and I think they will be good. But at least when it comes to this year specifically, I really don't see the Colts as a team that I would expect to make it to the AFC title game.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think their ceiling is probably a wild card team. I just think in general, they are not a super efficient football team. Obviously, as you said, Phillip Rivers, not a big fan of Phillip Rivers. Don't think Phillip Rivers is very good anymore. As for their floor, they play Tennessee twice, Green Bay, Houston, Vegas, Houston again, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville. They could very easily lose 4, if not 5, maybe, of those games. So I'd say 8 wins, 9 wins is probably sounds about right. I couldn't see. I don't think they're going to lose out, obviously, but I could see them dropping both games against Tennessee. Green Bay should beat them. Pittsburgh should beat them in Pittsburgh. And then I could see them dropping one to Houston. It's like it's how it goes. The division is so weird. Um, I don't know. The Colts should fight for a wild card team, but I don't know if they're going to go any further than a first round playoff exit. Honestly.
Yeah, and even that, I mean, Green Bay, that's still a tough opponent. Pittsburgh, obviously, you named a lot of good teams in there, so it's kind of just like Houston and Jacksonville are kind of the trash teams in their division. That's probably the brightest spot for the Colts. I will say, Michael Pittman, he was the leading receiver in that game. Their rookie they took in the second round out of USC, so that was a nice sign. And I like Jonathan Taylor as well. I think they've done a nice job with their backs. Naeem Hines has had some good games as well. So as I said, I think the Colts have some nice young talent there. I think Chris Ballard is a pretty good GM. He knows an eye for talent when he sees it. So I think the Colts are doing a good job rebuilding that roster, but I think still kind of that quarterback position, I think that's where the Colts could kind of look to be upgrading in the future. So that's kind of where I lean with the Colts and why I have some reserve as them as, say, a Super Bowl threat or even a team to get to the AFC title game. So good thought there from our friend Luke, big Colts fan on that one. So we appreciate it. Move on to our friend Scotty G, of course, at Sports with Scott on Twitter. First thought from him this week, he says, can Tua lead the Dolphins to a division win? So this was something we just kind of outlined a little bit ago, talking about the Dolphins, their big win over Arizona. But unfortunately, they play in a division with the Buffalo Bills, who we just talked about having that nice win over the Seattle Seahawks. So for me, that would be a little rich. I don't think the Dolphins will claim the AFC East overall. I think that will be Buffalo's, but Dolphins are a team that I could see getting into the playoffs. Kind of, they'll be competing with teams like the Colts in that AFC for some of those wild card spots. So Dolphins have looked good. I think that was really a kind of a statement win for them against Arizona, as we were just kind of outlining there. So I think things are looking up for the Dolphins, but I think I'm just a little bit reserved on them taking the AFC East overall.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't know. As we said before, the Dolphins look good. They're a team on the up and up, but it's very hard to do anything with a rookie quarterback. It's not necessarily Tua's fault if they don't end up making the playoffs or winning the division, but I don't know. I would err on the side of caution on that one. I think the Dolphins are going to be good for a long time, and I think Tua is going to be their franchise quarterback, but I don't think they're winning the division this year with how good the Bills have been.
Yeah, no question. We will get into some more NFL thoughts a little bit later in our questions, but Scotty G has some college football thoughts for us. So now shifting back to that side of the ball here, his first thought, he says, Donnie said not to bring up Oklahoma until they win 4 straight. Well, I'm here to let you know that they just did that. So how about them Sooners? So yeah, I mean the Sooners they've been climbing back after that kind of slow start that they had this year. So Donnie,
Bro,
where are your thoughts at with the
Kansas.
Sooners now?
It's Kansas. Kansas doesn't have a win yet this year. I don't want to hear it. Like, I understand, bragging about the last couple wins. I think they beat all the Texas teams or whatever. But it's like, when you look at Kansas is 0-7 this year. And they have lost to equally as mediocre teams. I mean, it's like they lost to Coastal Carolina. They lost to Baylor. West Virginia's not very good. Kansas State beat them by 41. Let's just be real here. Beating Kansas is like, I don't know. It's like taking candy from a disabled kid. It's like, it's nothing to brag about. It's very, very sad. Don't talk about it. I don't want to hear it. So tell me when, let's say this. Oklahoma plays Oklahoma State in 2 weeks. We'll talk after that. I'll give him credit after that if Oklahoma can win.
And I think Scotty G will take that. Oklahoma usually plays pretty well in that game against Oklahoma State. They've kind of had their number the last few years. But yeah, you're right. Kansas, I mean, usually the running joke for me, I'm a fan of a team in the Big Ten. Obviously, Iowa, that's the school I go to. Rutgers is always the team that everyone just laughs at because Rutgers sucks. As we know, our friend Dan, he goes there. Rutgers sucks. Like, no one likes Rutgers. But even Kansas is worse than Rutgers this year because Kansas doesn't even have a win this entire year, and Rutgers at least was able to squeak out a win against Michigan State, who is also trash. But if we're talking about bad teams, Kansas is literally probably the worst team in the Power 5 this year. So, I mean, yeah, you did slaughter them. We'll give you that. Shout out to the Sooners. But yeah, I mean, I think my mom could beat Kansas in a football.
I agree.
Just one on 11.
I agree.
It really would not be too hard. So
100%.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking there. No respect for Kansas, but yeah, I mean, keep grinding, Sooners. I mean, you're back in the AP25, so as you should be. But yeah, that's where you're at there. So good thought from Scott. He also says, is Michigan the Texas of the Big Ten? So this is a funny thought, talking about 2 teams that have high recruiting budgets and then somehow still manage with 7 wins every year. So I can definitely see that comparison. Teams that seem to always get that cool head coach and then they win do good for a season, maybe get a bowl win, and then a few years later they're like, wow, this guy actually kind of sucks because he doesn't consistently win any big games. So I think that's a very accurate comp
Yeah,
comparing Michigan to
I
those.
heard a couple people say, "Oh, Michigan's back. They beat Minnesota in Minnesota," and then we've seen the last 2 weeks, and they're back to Michigan. So, obviously tough. Texas had a bad time the last decade or more. I don't know since Vince Young. So I think that's fair. Michigan recruits really well. Never does anything on the field, and that's just how it goes. Some teams can't win. It's fine. I can't say anything about it. If you're a Michigan fan, I'm sorry. You're trying your best. I really appreciate your effort.
Hey, I mean they're trying, but it's not working. Jim Harbaugh, you gotta kind of figure it out. Give me a season where Michigan's like, wow, you actually won the Big Ten this year. You actually beat Ohio State. That never happens. Like it's kind of like Texas, how they like never beat Oklahoma. So there you go. There that comp actually that was outstanding. So well done there for Scott on that one. Next one here, he's siding with Scotty, our friend here. He's siding with Donnie here on this thought, and he says, here's a tweet that both Donnie and I can appreciate. There's a tweet from PFF College, and they say, the college football MVPs from this past weekend is De'Ara King at quarterback and Ronnie Perkins of Oklahoma for defense at the edge rusher there. So, yeah, I mean, Miami and Oklahoma, you can kind of like give each other a high five on this past weekend.
Scotty, if you're watching the YouTube video, there you go. I slapped my camera for you. Congratulations. Take your bragging about doing something against Kansas. Like, it's fine. I'll let it go this time.
I still want to see that Miami Oklahoma bowl game that Scotty was talking about a few weeks ago. That's what I'm rooting for, just so we can get Scotty versus Donnie on the field.
I don't think it'll happen, but if it does happen, Miami by 13. So there you go.
Okay. Donnie's already given us a point spread for the Fiesta Bowl.
I love it. Yep, that's me. I'm here for it. I'm your bookie now. Let's go.
Good stuff. All right. That does it for Scott's college football thoughts, but he's got a few more for us. This one is a funny one here. I'm sure Donnie's going to have an interesting time with it. But he says, thoughts on Anthony D'Angelo's Twitter getting deactivated. So, yeah, I mean, Anthony D'Angelo, obviously defenseman for the New York Rangers. He loves tweeting about Donald Trump and everything election-related. That concluded this week. So, Donnie, I mean, Joe Biden's a winner. You can kind of sit back and laugh. What's going on with Anthony D'Angelo's Twitter?
I'm thinking the team probably told him, hey, don't tweet anymore. You're not doing yourself a favor. And it's funny because he said no more political thoughts out of him. And then as soon as he got his contract, not like hours after he got his contract, his RFA deal, he's back at it. I'm thinking the team is probably not thrilled with him. I'm thinking his agent's probably not thrilled with him. Somebody needs to tell him to shut up. I think that's just how it has to be. So some athletes, especially, some athletes don't know when to close their mouth. And there's some things you just don't need to talk about. And there's some things you don't need to spew about, and he just constantly spews about it over and over. Like, just let it go. Who cares?
Yeah, the D'Angelo tweets were definitely plenty over the past week, and they were very interesting to be reading. So, yeah, that was an interesting thought. It's always funny to see Rangers Twitter kind of shift to everybody towards hating their own defensemen when stuff like this happens.
Well, don't get Cohen against Carolina in the playoffs, and then we won't be mad at you.
There you go. You gotta make it happen on the ice first, and then you can say whatever you want. But you haven't done that, so fix your defense, and then maybe you can spew a little bit more.
That's fair. I'll take that. I'm good with that.
Okay, so there you go. That's a win-win. If we get the Rangers wins on the ice, then you can get your Twitter back, but not until then, Anthony D'Angelo. So that's our thoughts on that. Yeah, really weird situation with D'Angelo's Twitter, but I mean, funny. So thanks for Scott on that one. And then last thought he's got for us, he says, Donnie, are you getting Black Ops Cold War? Why or why not?
I will be. Our good friend Owen is a big COD guy. We always play when the games come out, so I will definitely be purchasing the game. It looks like a lot of fun, actually. Obviously not in RK's realm. He plays Madden and NHL, and that's about it. But yeah, I do believe I will be purchasing the game. If you want to play, you have my gamer tag, so hit my line, Scott.
There you go. We're making things happen, Scotty. Hit Donnie up to play, get your COD in. So, but yeah, I mean, Scotty G, Scotty's been playing. He was playing MUT at the beginning of the year. He was getting my Madden fix, but now he's on to COD. We're getting next gen consoles coming up as well, so that's really nice. So some gaming thoughts from us on that one. So yeah, shout out to Scott. Obviously, Scott always asks us so many questions. So we love it. Consistent question answer. Hard to find anyone more. So big shout out to Scott. Great listener on that one. Appreciate all your thoughts. All right, moving on now. A couple other questions, obviously, this week. This next one comes from my friend Mikey at Michael_Nakula. This one on Instagram. And he says, who's winning the Clark Cup this year. And he says Stampede going back to cancel to back. So if you have no idea what's going on, the Clark Cup goes to the winner of the USHL, the United States Hockey League, which is the top junior league in the United States. Mikey, my friend, works for the Sioux Falls Stampede. So what happened was, obviously, Sioux Falls, they won the championship. They won the Clark Cup 2 years ago. Then last year, did not get awarded because of COVID. That season cut short. NHL came back. USHL did not. And now the season's resuming again. So we want them to go back to cancel to back. I think that would be a hilarious way to win back-to-back championships with just a season cancelization in the middle. We're just kind of like, let's just forget about that. We got back-to-back championships. So there you go. Cedar Rapids Rough Riders, they're not playing this year. That's the team I work for. So yeah, sure. I'll give Mikey a shout out on the Sioux Falls Stampede there.
No, I'm thinking the Chicago Steel. I don't know, just something about it. I'm really
that's actually an intelligent comment from you, Donnie, because the Steel are usually one of the best teams in the USHL, but they have like so much COVID now going on in their work, so it's kind of tough. They had like 3 games suspended. They were going to play the development team, so not what you want. Not what you want.
All right, maybe not the Chicago Steel. I looked at there was a THN article.
Can you name anybody else in the USHL?
No. There was a THN article that said that the Chicago Steel have like 7 of the top 40 players in the USHL. So I was like, I'm thinking that offensively they'll be there. I got nothing for you. I'm sorry. I tried my best.
Yeah, the Steel are actually a very well run organization. They have one of their top players will be in the draft next year, actually going to University of Michigan this upcoming year. So Steel have very good recruiting. So normally that's an intelligent comment, but
I tried my best.
Not the exact moment.
I tried.
So, it happens. We got to work on our USHL scouting for this year. So, but right now, before the season, it just started up this past weekend, USHL, so junior hockey. So, good love there from my friend Mikey. Good luck to Stampede this year. All right. Another question here, another question asker from our friend Kirk. This one actually came to us last week, but happened after we recorded. So we're hitting it now. He says, if year 2 BK was the starting QB for the Eagles, how many wins would we end with? This is just an absolutely hilarious thought from our friend Kirk. Obviously, talking about our friend BK, who has another Madden franchise or league where he plays quarterback. But honestly, BK, he throws picks. I'm not gonna sit here and act like BK doesn't throw interceptions when he plays Madden all the time. So I mean, that would actually fit really well with how the Eagles are doing, because this year Carson Wentz has kind of just had moments where he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw picks and fumble the ball and shit too. So I mean, how many wins would the Eagles end with if year 2 BK was a starting quarterback? I'm going to say the exact same. I'm going to say there's no difference. They have like 4 wins right now, and they're going to like finish the season with 6 and win the NFC East. So I'm going to say that's the exact situation if they had year 2 BK. I'm going to say no change.
Yeah, I would have went with 6 as well. I watched BK throw like 7 picks against me one time when we played Madden. So I'm thinking BK is probably not the answer at quarterback. He might help. He might have a game or two where he stuns you, but then Carson Wentz, probably the more efficient quarterback long term. So
yeah, we'll roll with it. But Kirk does say year 2 BK. Like year 1 BK, rookie BK, he'd be throwing the picks. Maybe year 2 BK, he'll settle it down a little bit. Maybe just like, 1 or 2 picks a game, but he'll get like 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, that's where we're going with. But yeah, I'm sticking with Carson Wentz. I'm trying to get Jalen Hurts out there too. The Eagles have a big quarterback room. If we had year 2 BK, I don't know. All hell might break loose. So, Eagles, they're staying put right now. That's what I'm thinking on that one. So, funny thought from our friend Kirk. We appreciate that one.
Yeah,
all right, we'll keep it rolling on the. Donnie, go ahead.
I want to tell Kirk. I really appreciate the questions that we get from you, because they really don't make any sense half the time. You just come in here with the spewage, and that's something that it gives us a little bit of a comedic. It's comedic relief almost. So claps to you. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to Kirk on that one. That was definitely an interesting thought. Keep us on his toes, as Donnie's saying. So we love it and appreciate it there. All right, as I said, we'll keep rolling here. This next thought comes from our friend Josh at I Hate Lettuce 2, of course, and he just wants us to he just wants us to answer questions on things we've talked about before, I guess, because his first thought is Justin Fields Heisman, which is something we talked about last week, and we said, yes, Justin Fields is definitely in the Heisman race, so, I mean, he just wants more Buckeyes love, so sure, I'll give it to you. Yeah, Justin Fields is definitely in the Heisman race, but I'm actually going to say Derek King, he bowled out on Saturday. Donnie, shout out to you as well. I think Derek King's getting in the Heisman race.
Well, I mean, if Miami wins out, and they get to I don't know if they're going to get to the ACC game after what happened. If Miami wins out, he has a case. He probably won't win, but he has a case. I still think Justin Fields, especially with Lawrence being out and missing a game, or two does not help his cause. So I think Fields is probably up there with the favorites at this point.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. I feel like Alabama, they have like 3 guys. Like, I feel like you could say Mac Jones or Najee Harris or even Devontae Smith. Like, it really doesn't matter. You can pick any of those guys. So maybe that like helps the situation for some other guys because that won't split up the votes in that individual team. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think Justin Fields is definitely right at the top, especially since Trevor Lawrence has had to sit out a few games and Travis Etienne kind of had some fumbling weird plays lately. So yeah, there's a few guys in the Heisman race there. Heisman race mix. Is that
Fair,
right?
yeah.
Donnie?
I think that's how they go about things. So
Okay. Okay, great. So there's some thoughts there on the Heisman, and then Josh, next thought, again, a thought that he's brought up before, but hey, we'll keep rolling here. And he says James Robinson, best rookie running back, and he has an Ivy League caliber education. So I mean, Josh was really trying to hammer home the idea that James Robinson may actually be better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he just wants to say that Illinois State is better than LSU. That's really just the entire base of this conversation. And you know what? I'm not going to stand for it because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a better player than James Robinson. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. He's not the best rookie running back, even if maybe his all-season, all-purpose yards to this point is so far better. I'm not having it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, better running back than James Robinson.
yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. I picked Clyde third in our fantasy league, so you know, I'm gonna stick with Clyde. Clyde's on a winning team. You know, James Robinson, he'll be out of the league in 2 years. Clyde, 10-year future Hall of Famer. So
yeah, and DeAndre Swift as well. I think DeAndre Swift had a nice game over the weekend as well. I'm thinking good things with DeAndre Swift, so I think he's gonna kind of make things happen. I will say one area where maybe I've taken an L on local running backs is Cam Akers. I was huge on Cam Akers. He was my top running back in the class overall before the draft. Hasn't really worked out yet. I think the Rams are starting to use him a little bit more in their offense. They did in their last game, but yeah, so there's some thoughts on some of the rookie running backs in the NFL. But yeah, James Robinson, Ivy League caliber education because he went to Illinois State. Illinois State, more known for their public relations, student organizations. I texted that to Josh today, so there's a shout on that one. Okay, we'll keep going here. Josh's next thought. He says, thoughts on the only person who went to college with my sister and friend Julia being Joe Burrow. So, I mean, again, just very cherry-picked stat of way of saying that he's connected with Joe Burrow. But yeah, Donnie, any comms for Josh on having some kind of relationship with Joe
after
Burrow?
coming out with 2 questions that really just we've already answered, this is the first one I get, and I'm not thrilled with it. I need him to be better. Scott's asking us questions about Tony D'Angelo and PFF ratings, and I'm getting this out of Josh. It's like, yeah, I expect a little bit more out of somebody who hates lettuce, honestly.
I mean, yeah, maybe if Josh doesn't start asking us better questions, at least at the start here, or like new questions, then we're gonna force him to eat lettuce on camera.
That's fair.
That's my thought.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, Josh does have a few more for us to get our brains moving, as always. And he says, this is for Donnie here. I'm giving Donnie full ruling on this question. And he says, can you make the outro music for this episode be the Curious George song? So you'll have to listen to the end of the podcast to find out.
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying. Okay. That is the most diplomatic answer I think I've ever heard, and that was so well executed. As someone who likes marketing, who is a fan of marketing, that is one of the greatest marketing strategies. Donnie just made you listen to the rest of this podcast, Josh. So bang! What a mic drop moment.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and I did what I had to do. So
facts. So good stuff. You'll have to find out. We'll see. Find out what the outro music is, and then get back to us. So bang! All right, Josh. Funny thoughts here. Again, getting our mind moving. This next thought here, he says, choose 3 historical figures, and you cannot choose a professional in the field of which you are choosing, which is an interesting thought, but I'll keep going. He says, since 1800, and pick who would you want for 3 categories. So to sum up again, that was a lot of words, but we're picking 3 historical figures or people who we would want for the following situation. So the first one is a bags partner. So, I mean, some people are like, it's cornhole. First of all, it's bags. So shout out to Josh for using the correct terminology here. So I'm picking, okay, actually, I misinterpreted that. I'm picking one person who would be my bags partner. So this is an interesting thought. I could pick any historical figure to be my bags partner. Wow. This is a loaded question. And I feel like I would need someone with a good arm and who has a lot of time on their hands to like tailgate and do things of that nature. So I'm thinking I got to pick like a former quarterback. Give me like Give me like Byron Leftwich. Yeah, just the most random thought that just came into my mind. But I'm thinking I could get something going with Byron Leftwich on the
You
bags
know,
match. That's what I'm going with.
I think you may have missed somebody who is a big partier. You know, he's been known to drink a couple brews in his time. Johnny Football, obviously.
Okay.
You know, I was really
Okay.
thinking it was either him or Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes is on the commercial throwing the cornhole and he just doesn't miss. But I'm
That's
thinking he
true.
probably doesn't have time because the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year. So I'm thinking Johnny Football is my answer there.
That's a strong selection from you, Donnie. Honestly, I like that. There, we're both going with the quarterback idea on that one. So eye to eye on that one. But okay, we'll keep going. Josh has a few other situations where we're picking historical figures for the situations. The next one is your wedding officiant. So I thought this was a weird thing, but it's pretty much just like the guy who says that you guys are married. So Donnie, you can pick anybody you want for this situation. Who are you picking to say that you're marrying whenever you have?
You know, I'm thinking Ronald McDonald. You know, he can go out there, throw him in a suit.
Okay.
Obviously, he can't wear what he normally wears. But if you get Ronald McDonald in a suit, you know, I'm fine with it. I'm good with that. That makes me happy. You know, the pictures will be classic. You know, I can say, hey, I got married, and here's Ronald McDonald. So I could pick anybody, and that's my dream. So
Hey, that would be a happy meal. I think that is how the
that
ruling
was
would go.
dumb, but you know, we'll go with it.
A
That was
happy
dumb, but we'll go with
wedding.
it.
All right. Ronald McDonald's Donnie's pick. I'm going to go with Doug Peterson on this one. This is a pretty easy choice for me, simply for the fact that when the Eagles called the Philly special, Nick Foles jogged over to Doug Peterson and he said, "You want Philly, Philly?" And Doug said, "Let's do it." So really, the only point of this is I want Doug Peterson to just say, "Yeah, let's do it." When I ask him if I can get married. So there you go. Going with Doug Peterson on that one. Easy choice. So I'm sure Josh is satisfied with that answer because Doug Peterson's the man. All right. Last one for this part of the question. He says, again, we're picking one person for this person to be your grocery bagger next time you shop at Target. So not next time you go to the grocery store, not next time you go to Trader Joe's, Donnie. Next time you go to Target to get your Uncrustables, who do you want the
Yao
person to
Ming.
be bagging your groceries? Wow, I think that I do like that is such an interesting choice. Like, do you have intellect on
Well,
why
see,
you
the
want
thing
Yao
is,
Ming
okay, so
to
you know
bag your
what? At
groceries?
Target, let's say like you know, on the conveyor belt where they're bringing things to the like to where the bagging area is or whatever. What if that's not working? You need somebody that can reach that far distance, and Yao Ming's wingspan's got to be just
Okay,
ridiculous at this point. He's got to be able like so I'm thinking
that is
Yao Ming
true.
is probably the most efficient way to do it. We could have a nice conversation along the way. I could tell him, hey, you were a really good basketball player. He could say, hey, you're really good at buying groceries at Target. And we can have like a nice little
Nice.
connection there. So I think that's big for me.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I feel like
Oh, it's
you
Yao
can spark
Ming,
up some
man.
conversations
Yao
with Yao
Ming's been
Ming.
doing this
Honestly,
for so long now. I'm sure he
yeah,
has conversation with everybody about anything. Like at this point, I don't know.
yeah. All right, I am gonna go with a different direction. I'm actually not going with an athlete for this one. For the next person that bags my groceries, it's got to be Sheck West. I mean, come on, like you guys have listened to the podcast. I gotta just tell Sheck West while he's bagging my groceries, like, hey, like you got to come on the podcast. I gotta tell him in person. So this is my
Smart.
opportunity now when Sheck West is bagging my toothpaste that I get at Target, and while he puts it in the bag, I'm like, hey man, do you wanna come on my podcast? And he'll be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah,
And I'll be
he
like,
will not be approving of the question, and he'll tell you no, and then we'll never have to ask again.
but at least I'll have my shot. That's my way in, even though it's not my way in. That's my
That's fair.
opportunity.
That's fair.
But
I'm good with
probably
that.
unsuccessful. But yeah, I'm going with Sheck West to bag my groceries. So there you go. Josh asked us weird questions, so we got to give him funny answers. So good thought there. Okay, jeez. All right, last thought from Josh before we move on to finish up our podcast with one more question. But Josh, here we go. Last thought from him. He says, last but not least, 5 historical figures. So Josh is really big on this historical figures idea right now. We're just gonna roll with it. To be in your dream group project group. So we need to pick 5 other people who would be in a group project with us. We don't know the means of this project, but you just need 5 other people that you can get shit done. So Don,
Okay.
any
I
thoughts for
got
you?
this.
On
Number one, Steve Eiserman. He always has a plan. He just there's never been a time when he doesn't have a plan. Number 2, Magic Johnson, very very positive figure. He's very very happy. His tweets are all emotional. You feel something about him. And I feel like Magic could provide a good leadership base. Obviously you need that good leader. Magic's a winner. He's been around for a long time. So you put Steve and Magic together with me. I think we have a good trio there. On top of that, we need to add somebody who has a brain, who's got some intelligence with him. So I'm thinking Albert Einstein. I could be wrong on this one, but I'm thinking he will have some sort of idea how to do the group project. He's a very, very smart man. So outside of that, we have 3 people that probably do most of the work, and now we need some comedic relief. So I'm gonna get Gilbert Iglesias. I don't know if you know the fluffy guy. I think him in general. You can't be sad around him. Just like look at him using his voice and just talking like. Wow, I don't know. I'd be shocked at that point. I don't even need another guy. But if I had to pick a 5th, I'm gonna go with Eli Manning. I think Eli Manning. He just fits. It's Eli Manning. Eli Manning will step in there. He'll do his job. Obviously a Hall of Famer. So that's my 5, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think I've got a good rounded group of people to do things in my project group, and I think we're gonna go far on this one.
I think the fact that you said rounded group is very well said, especially because you have Gabriel.
It's very rounded.
So I think
extremely
that really
rounded.
rounds your group up really well. Yeah. Yeah, no question. Okay, 5 historical figures. The fact that Josh said historical means I'm picking people who are dead, so I'm starting out. First choice, easy. Give me George Washington. Give me the man who started this country and was like, listen, I'm taking this entire country on my back, and I'm leading them. I'm leading them to a victory against the British. Give me that man. I want that man. He won't be denied. George Washington, easy choice. Give me him on my group project team. First overall choice. Moving on now. I'm a big coach guy. I want people who are going to help you out, who have seen the way. So next choice, give me John Tortorella. John Tortorella is going to let you know if you are not doing what you need to do. Like, John Tortorella is not taking nothing from nobody. He's going to make sure that you get your job done, and it is done to the best of your ability. So I need John Tortorella there. He's not afraid if we have a young guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois to tell him, hey, man, you got to step up. You got to step up to the occasion. This is playoffs. This is the group project playoffs, and John Tortorella will let us all know of that. All right. And now that we have a coach, though, I need players. I need guys who are going to get the job done. And it's Kobe Bryant. Come on, man. Kobe Bryant, Mamba mentality, he's not being denied. Like, if Kobe Bryant is in my group project team, we are going to just prosper. We're just going to make things happen. Kobe, Mamba mentality, that's what I want. And then 2 more guys. I go back to the coach theme, actually. No real reason. I just think it's good to have, coaching minds to share strategy. So I'm going with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's leader of an 8-0 football team right now. Mike Tomlin is not losing in the year 2020, so that's who I want. I think that's interesting. I think a lot of people are losing in 2020, so the fact that Mike Tomlin is not, that's why I'm going with him. And then you know what? This guy is proven himself. I want someone who's been there, done that. The greatest coach in the history of the NFL, it's Bill Belichick. I want Bill Belichick there just for the fact that he can A, provide hoodies, which is great, and B, he can just make like funny comments like we're on to Cincinnati, or just like something like that. Like you guys, like you need to do your job. You need to do your job that we know, and then Bill Belichick will make sure no, we're here to do business. We're here to work.
That's your emotional
leader.
leader.
To get things done. So I picked a group. Exactly. I pick guys who are not messing around, who are there to work, who are there to get the job done. And Mike Tomlin, he's not losing. George Washington, he's taking down countries. He's leading a nation. I feel like that's just a great group. I couldn't ask for anything more.
I can't even comment on that. That sounds great. I think our groups would duel pretty good. We would have fantastic times together,
I think so too. I think so too. We got to go on like the 2K Blacktop and get like a 5v5 game of like George Washington and John Tortorella.
Yeah, that's fair.
Gabriel Iglesias. Like we just got to find we got to make that happen somehow, some way. So great thought. I mean, I really didn't anticipate this kind of question. So the fact that Josh asked it, I mean, great. Really got our minds working. So yeah, shout out to Josh on that one. Bunch of good questions from him this week, as always. So we appreciate that one.
Fair.
All right, let's continue on. Last thought question. Way we're gonna wrap up this podcast. This again comes from my sister Kira. And she sent us an exam. Funny, we were just talking about group chats, but like a personality test called an Enneagram. Donnie and I were talking about this before the podcast. I don't know how to say it. Enneagram. Enneagram. That's what we're going with. And it was like a personality test. You just figure out like what it's a personality test. You figured it out. I don't need to explain it anymore. But okay, so we took this test. Donnie and I each did, and we want to know what are our Enneagram. So mine is an investigator. That was like, they gave you like 10 different options, and whichever one you corresponded to the most, they gave you. So this was mine, and a few thoughts about it. It was that it's someone who is safety, or like feels safe in the security of their own mind, who is comfortable in the realm of thought, and they like to become experts in the area that capture their interests. So I was like, wow, I mean, I can see that. I like to spend time alone and gather my own thoughts, security in my mind. I was like, all right, I relate to that, and become experts in the area that they're interested in. I was like, hey, I mean, I'd like to think I know a thing or two about sports. I like talking about it with you guys, you listeners out there. So I mean, hey, like if that means I'm an expert, like I'll take it. So yeah, fun to take that personality test. Donnie, you took this exam as well. Let's hear some of your results.
I didn't have a clear type apparently. It said I'm most likely a type 2, which would be the helper. Helpers who need to be needed. So I am somebody who is selfless, and I give to others a lot. I'm very socially aware and extroverted. I devote an enormous amount of energy to people, and I expect to be appreciated for my efforts, which is true. If you do a lot for people, you should expect to have some sort of reciprocation on that. So I appreciate that. I also got type 3 very high, the achiever. I am focused on the presentation of success to attain validation. I think that's everybody though. It's like you want to be successful so other people look at you as a successful person. If you are not succeeding or you're not doing what you're looking to do, you're not achieving your goals, you're not going to get that validation internally or externally. I think it's fair. It says, taking weights into account, you are a 2W3 or 3W2. So if Kira wants to DM me and tell me how what this means, or if this is good or bad, I'll definitely listen. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, good stuff. Kira told me that she is actually one of those people that just listens to the end of the podcast. Like she doesn't actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I mean, yeah, hit Donnie up. Explain us what exam we just took. What does this mean about our lives? Is this good? Is this bad? Is my personality a concern? These are the questions now that we have. We always answer other people's questions. Now, Donnie, like we have questions.
I need somebody to explain that, and the Enneagram, 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 like something like that. I need you to tell me how it's pronounced first off, and second, tell me if my responses, my answers, are good, or if I'm a shitty person. That's what I'm looking to know.
Yeah, exactly. These are the crushing questions that we have now. Yeah, that wraps up the questions that we got. Now we just shelled out questions, so I mean, bang, curveball on our listeners to my sister here. But yeah, I mean that sums up our podcast for this week. It was a good run. Felt like it was a pretty relaxed podcast. Hopefully you were just kind of like hanging out, listening, background. That's always the nice part about podcasts. Like I like listen to podcasts when I'm like working out. It's like, hey, I'll hear like a few words here and there. Maybe it'll be interesting. So that's what I thought. Maybe you got some enjoyment out of it. Let us know. Let us know on social media. Let us know at Roth Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok as well.
And make sure you follow us on Spotify too.
Shouts on there. Let us know what's going on. Yeah, definitely follow us on Spotify. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. My dad is like the only person who listens on Google Play, probably. So, I mean, I don't even know what the procedure is there. Is it follow, subscribe? Whatever it is, do that. I mean, yeah. But, yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out, obviously. Roadie on the Horn podcast. 40th episode in the books right now. Sheck West, obviously, coming on the podcast soon. So
obviously, Sheck West will be on at some point. He's got a very busy schedule. He's releasing an album soon, probably. He is bagging groceries.
He's bagging groceries.
He's trying to help out people. But, yeah, We appreciate the questions. Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you again next week. Peace.
Peace, everybody.
You never do know what's around a bend. Big adventure or brand new friend when you're curious. I like curious jaws. Swing! Well, everything is so glorious. Sure. And everything is so wondrous. But it's supposed to explode when you